What's up everybody? Welcome back to Zero Mile ADV, a true beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling. And I realize in a couple of my videos I have mentioned what some people call the original adventure bike, but we haven't talked about it in a while. So in this episode, we are going to talk about the mods I have made to the, what some would call the original adventure bike, the Harley Davidson Road King, to make it more of an adventure bike in some regards. So stay tuned. Okay, so one of the first modifications I made to the bike was in the realm of comfort. If you look at a GT car like a Porsche, Porsche is probably the greatest example, or maybe even Mercedes, is that like their GT cars perform really well, but they still have really nice creature comforts. So on this bike, I did the heated grips. Now this seems to be like in the Dynabro scene or like the performance scene, like if you have heated grips, like you're a little bit weak. You know, it's like, don't ever do that. So again, this is why I'm like taking a different approach. So I did heated grips because this heated grips makes a big difference when it gets cold, when your hands are even just, you know, this touch point, when the bottom of your hands can get warm and you have a better glove on, it makes a world of difference on the ride. I also did these integrated mirrors with these blinkers. I actually had the dealer install these. This is one piece I didn't do because there's a lot of complicated wiring, and it actually took them a while to figure out. But a couple of things. A, it gives me better visibility. The mirrors are a bit nicer than the factory ones. They look better, so not only do they look better and it looks cool, they also perform better and there's better lighting. I could potentially get rid of these lower bulbs, but a lot of times on a motorcycle you have to assume that nobody sees you, so one of the best things to do is to increase your visibility. So now I have the two blinkers on the front. The next thing I did was from the comfort standpoint, was the Saddleman seat. So I went to Born Scum, which is like, again, not really like my style. It's kind of more of that like, very, I don't know how to describe it, so we'll leave it for somebody else. Not typically my style, but they have this cool seat builder where you can build a seat custom to however you want. So you can get the type of seat you want in the stitching. So of course, having a blue bike, I had them do the blue cross stitching. I had them do the grip back on here, which is really nice, and then it's step up. The other key thing that I added was a heater. So the seat is also heated, so another creature comfort. This seat is a huge upgrade over the factory one. It's a little bit narrower, which allows you to grip the bike a little bit better, and now that the bike is taller, which we'll talk about a little bit later, it also makes the bike easier to handle when you're at a stoplight. Took a long time to get, I'm not gonna lie. I think it took four months or something. I ordered this last summer in June, and I don't think I got the seat until close to Christmas last year. So, but definitely worth the upgrade. It looks really nice. It's got the kind of blue that matches, and this gripper piece is huge. It really adds to the comfort and gripping your body as you're leaning the bike over into corners, so it makes it perform better. So not only is it more comfortable, it's heated, it also helps perform better. Okay, let's talk about another mod that I did that actually adds to not only the comfort, but the performance of the bike. And that is this Legend suspension kit. I did front and rear on the bike. Now with the rear, I did the 14-inch shocks. So it actually, well, let me back that up. Yes, these are 14-inch shocks, but I did the +2 kit total front and rear, which actually means it raised the bike up 2 inches. So on the performance side, raising the bike up, if you look at like the performance bagger racing circuit that they're doing, those bikes sit very tall to allow that bike to lean in and lean more, basically giving you more ground clearance. So you're not scraping pegs anymore, and it also really helps the bike turn into the corner because that weight makes it easier to tip, right? You're raising up the center of mass, it makes it easier to tip over. So I noticed right off the bat is after installing this, just driving it around town, at a slow stop, you know, at a stop sign, in those kind of like slow right-hand turns or left-hand turns, the bike really just leans in a lot easier, and it's much easier to maneuver, and it's much more nimble. Another thing I've been thinking about to help it handle a bit better is getting the carbon fiber wheels from BST. That is an expensive upgrade, but you'd reduce a lot of unsprung weight and mass in having the carbon fiber wheels, which will add to kind of the more nimble and light feeling and being able to kind of maneuver the bike a little bit better. With this, it was really, the rear was really easy to set up. the rear was very easy to set up and very easy to do if you have a motorcycle jack stand. The front was a little bit more complicated, so we'll move up there and talk about the front. Okay, so let's talk about the suspension on the front of the bike. You can't really tell, but I actually had to replace the upper fork tubes, which are covered behind this kind of balance per se that you take off, but there's a longer tube. So in order to accommodate the drop-in cartridges from Legends, I actually had to get longer tubes, which I actually think come off the Harley Davidson Ultra Glide, like the really big touring model. Those fork tubes actually accommodate. Legend gives you the part number. I was really kind of worried about how complicated this was going to be to do, but I kind of dove into it. That being said, I've always worked on my own mountain bikes and I've built a number of bicycles, so I have a decent level of mechanical ability, and actually it was super easy. It was actually kind of surprising, having worked on mountain bikes like that. Those suspension components are so complicated and there's so many little moving parts. To pull this apart and just kind of see like one big spring, some spacers and oil, I was kind of surprised at like how archaic it was. And then it also it really explains like why the handling wasn't that great, and especially over bumps. And the installation was super easy. Basically drop the cartridge in, add some oil, they tell you the amounts of oil you need, and then you screw it back together and you slide the tubes in. So really easy, not really easy. I did it in probably a day or half a day. I got it replaced and I did the back separate. So the suspension, not only does it make a world of difference in how the bike handles, the comfort, especially too, once you get the proper sag set, is on a next level, especially over small bumps and stuff like that. Like coming up here, the road is very bumpy. It's kind of a back road to get back here where I like to film. And it's just a world of a difference as far as comfort goes as well, which adds to that long touring ability and overall comfort. So we're getting comfort and performance. So while we're also up here, you might also notice something else different, and that is the carbon fiber front fender. I really like the look of the shorty fender. I also feel it gives it that kind of like GT or performance feel. It also reduces a lot of weight, right? Because carbon's very light, and the fender, the big metal fender that comes on this, it's actually kind of square. I really don't like the factory front fender that comes on the Road King. I get it because Harley in a lot of ways has to cater to the crowd that loves the nostalgic look and the kind of that classic look, and so it has this very like squared off look. I love the look of this fender. This one is the matte one. Thinking back on it, I probably should have got the gloss one, as we'll look at some other kind of non-performance parts, but overall just kind of aesthetic parts that I put on here. I maybe should have went with the gloss one, but I really like this. Is from Sly Fox Performance. They actually make, it's not like an Amazon part, and I wanted to get like an actual quality fender. Super easy to replace. Didn't really have to do much to get this on. So let's move on. Okay, let's talk about another mod that I don't necessarily love, but was a necessity. I did want to do a 2-into-1 exhaust. However, I had to go with the short exhaust, and it's a little bit loud. So I kind of looked around for quite a while, and I wanted a quality exhaust, and I wanted one that it wasn't like terribly loud, and so I went with this Vance & Hines 2-in-1 short exhaust. So why did I have to go with the short exhaust? Well, because when you raise the bike up, there's a rear nut on the axle that when the wheel extends down to accommodate the 14-inch shock, it will hit the factory exhaust. So you can no longer go fully at the full long or length of it. I like the look of it. I love the look of it. I had to do the exhaust wrap because I was melting my pants. I did get their like heat shrouds. They didn't really work that great, so I've just done the exhaust wrap so I don't burn my freaking pants and shoes so much. Especially with like the new Thrashing controls that kind of move everything in, or a little bit narrow and raised up. Yeah, I wrapped it with some just black exhaust wrap, which I actually think looks pretty good, and then I still have one of the other heat shields over the top to help protect my pants from burning. The other thing I went with to kind of match the carbon fiber look was the, now that I have more free-flowing exhaust, I probably need a little bit more air coming into the engine, and so we went with the Vance & Hines intake. Also has like the carbon fiber tube to kind of keep the carbon fiber look. Like the look of the exhaust. I don't love it to be loud. I'm not one of those guys that like loves it to be loud. Riding with some other Harley guys around here, they're like, oh, mine's not loud enough. I want it to be as loud as possible. And mine, I don't really want it to be that loud. I'm just not into the loud thing of it, but it is what it is. I might even be able to get a quieter baffle, which make it a little bit more tolerable. Not my favorite thing, but it looks nice and it makes the suspension work, so I deal with it. Okay, so one thing that I don't necessarily love on the factory Road King Special was the stretch bags look. So the Road King Special has like the stretch bags and then kind of overlaps the pipes, and it's got like this tail cover on the back. I don't really like that, and especially once I went to the 2-into-1 short exhaust, it looked weird just kind of having this like the shapes for where the exhaust comes out, but no exhaust there. So I ordered lower bags, replacement bags from Hogworks. You can get them matched to your factory paint. They were super easy to swap over, so I just replaced the lower bags to a traditional bag, which is like the square ones. I actually think they look a lot better. I wish it came with these bags instead. I also removed the rear like stretched T-bar kind of thing that came off the back as well, which also cleans it up and kind of gives it a like faster, more performance look. Maybe I got some performance out of it because you could lean the bike and not worry about scraping the lower bags. The bags actually even had like a metal plate on the bottom that would scrape before it hit the bags. So with the bike being up and then these shorter bags, definitely not going to scrape. I'm not that good. I am not a racer. I am not that good. I'm not going to scrape these, but I think it looks way better, and you don't really lose that much volume because the stretch piece like is very thin. So yeah, you can tuck some stuff down there, so you technically lose volume, but usable volume, I don't think you lose that much volume in the bags with these bags. And then lastly, aside from all the thrashing controls, which I think I've talked about in another video where I did the handlebars, risers, and foot controls, brakes, shifter, and passenger pegs, which also helps the bike handle it, in my opinion. I feel way better, and it also looks better. I think I'm not a big fan of the apes. I also liked mine low. I know a lot of people, it's like the higher your bars are in the Harley scene, the more horsepower you get, but I decided to keep my horsepower low and go with more of a kind of a standard reach. But the last thing that I did that was kind of just more on the aesthetic piece is I replaced the center console here with a carbon fiber one, and I also replaced the horn cover with a carbon fiber one. So yeah, technically I save maybe £1 or £2 replacing those because they were like aluminum or steel parts, and they're now carbon fiber, so they're super light. But it was just kind of more for the aesthetics to match the carbon fiber front fender. I did think about still deciding if I'm going to do a full carbon fiber rear fender. Slyfox makes a real, actually Black Widow Components makes a really cool pre-drilled rear fender, so it'd be easy to replace. And also would also save more weight on a really heavy bike, which would help. But I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I kind of like the subtlety of just a few carbon pieces on the bike, so I may just leave it how it is. So if you have made it this far, please make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, all that YouTube stuff, just so it helps the channel. And until next time, stay safe out there.